Back on Inside Tennessee, here is your no excuses list of all the early voting sites in Knox County. Again, if you are a registered voter in Knox County, you can go to any of these sites from July 12th through the 27th and vote during those hours and have your ballot cast and counted in the upcoming election, which is August 1st. John?
Yeah, a reminder that you can even vote on Saturday, even if you're like, oh, I can't do it Monday through Friday. You can vote on Saturday. Chris, we were talking a little bit off camera. You've added a few sites, if I'm correct, because you wanted to ensure that people had good access, and there's also a change in sort of the West Knox County Farragut area site, correct?
That is correct.
Talk about that, because there are people in Farragut that will need to know that.
Absolutely. We have two Farragut aldermen's races on the ballot, as you probably know, and they're very, there's only two candidates, so it's winner take all, no runoff or anything like that. And so normally we would be out in the Farragut Town Hall, but it's under construction, at least a year-long project. So we have moved to the Election Commission's West office. It used to be, for those folks at home, used to be the Frank Strang Senior Center. It's literally 6/10 of a mile from the border of the town of Farragut, and I've had a couple of calls of, well, it's not in the town of Farragut, but I get those calls. I get those calls that there's not one in Powell, and there's not one in Hardin Valley, and there's not one in high school. So I'm used to those. But with limited resources, we do what we can. But ultimately, if you've ever been to the Costco out in West Knox County in the park, you can't get in the parking lot. It's literally a half a mile from there. So it's a good. We feel like it's a very good location. We want those folks to come out and early vote. As you mentioned, Saturdays, there are 3 Saturdays in this particular election. And I will tell you, just this is a helpful hint for voters at home. If you don't want to stand in a long line, vote on a Saturday during early voting. I don't care where you go. You're not going to be in a long line, even particularly football Saturdays. And that'll, even for October, that'll be a good piece of advice for folks. We'll wait and vote on a Saturday. But you also mentioned most of these standard sites are standard for us, but there are 3 new ones in addition to the Farragut location, which will be that Election Commission West office. We're going to be in the Carter Elementary School. Normally we're in Carter Senior Center, so that's out kind of in East Knox County. And then in Northeast Knox County in the Gibbs-Corrington area. Normally we've been in the Clear Springs Baptist Church back in March, but we've moved to the Gibbs-Ruritan Club, which is right down the road from Gibbs High and Gibbs Middle, Gibbs Elementary, well known up there. So ultimately, we try and make early voting as advantageous as possible, as convenient as possible. We're now in year, this is not a new thing for Tennesseans. We're in year 31 of early voting. We started in 1994, and frankly, as I was telling you off air, I couldn't imagine doing an election without doing early voting.
And you better remind folks when to when they can early vote.
Well, we're going to start July the 12th, so it'll be this coming Friday.
Okay.
We're obviously here on Sunday. It'll be Friday. We'll go Friday, Saturday, and then 2 full weeks, Monday to Saturday. It'll culminate on July the 27th, and then Election Day, which is a weird quirk of Tennessee law, will be on Thursday, August the 1st. But all of our locations for Election Day have not changed.
So we talk about, Chris, and hear a lot about voter fatigue. And you also mentioned about having to do a lot of education among voters.
Very much so.
What other municipalities out there have this frequency of voter cycles that you're aware of? And also, is there any talk about a strategy of trying to address the frequency of elections?
Yes to both. I will tell you that there are a lot of counties around Tennessee. A lot of them, I can probably find a list on our website, the Secretary of State's website, something like 40 to 50 counties have municipalities that have elections in off years. Every county in Tennessee has an August and a November even number year election. Most counties will have that May primary in the non-presidential years, and every county has the March presidential primary. So you could reduce them a little bit, perhaps, maybe by tying your city elections to your county elections. It has its advantages and its disadvantages, I will say.
Makes for a big ballot.
That's exactly right, and I think a lot of folks, and I won't spend too much time opining on this, but I do think a lot of people they either think, well, we're going to save some money. Okay, that's cool. You're going to save a few $100,000 maybe, and it's going to make it so that people don't have to do this. But give you an example of a Knoxville mayor's race. If you attach that to an August election where you've got, let's take an argument, say 4 candidates like we had back when we had India and Eddie Manis and a couple other people, whoever was on the ballot. Instead of being first on the ballot, you could be 15th. You could be 30th. How many folks are going to go down and not find that? Right. We know this anecdotally when the mayor and sheriff are on the ballot. We'll have 25 different races.
And how many delegates, for example, will be on this ballot for the Republican Party?
Well, that's a good point. It's not almost none. This is a very, very short, simple ballot, and I think ultimately that's better. And ultimately, if you're involved civically, the people who vote. And so it's not an onerous lift, in my opinion, but reasonable minds can disagree, I swear.
Chris, one question I have for you. We've seen around the country voter poll volunteers and the difficulty in finding them because some of them are feeling very threatened, are in fact being threatened. I have not seen that here in Knox County. I typically vote at the city-county building where all the workers have just been delightful and very, very helpful.
Thank you.
But are you having any problem recruiting volunteers to work your polls?
No. I will tell you, just in full disclosure, we've had a handful of volunteers who do not want to work anymore because part of it sometimes is, you just kind of age out of the process.
Sure.
But others have said, well, I'm just concerned, but we haven't had many, and frankly, we've had a pretty good job doing a good job recruiting and getting younger folks, hopefully. And I know sometimes we're not maybe going from like an average age of 63 to an average age of 20, but if we could lower that average age from 63 maybe to 59 or 60, and start integrating some folks from across all the age spectrums, I think we've done a pretty good job of that. And ultimately, the key for me is making sure that we're training them properly, making sure they're dedicated to the process, and ultimately, I want to make sure that everybody comes in, gets the right ballot, and that they're treated, well, because ultimately, this is a customer service business.
Mm-hmm. Chris Davis, we always appreciate your transparency and your willingness to come on and just talk about any and all things election. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate y'all's time, and just encourage everybody to get out and vote. Early voting starts this Friday.
Without a doubt. And the candidates that are up for election, we're going to have a way for you to watch all the ones we've done interviews with right after this on Inside Tennessee.